Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter and on Vero at Movies TV Mad. And yes, I can confirm I have seen The Batman. And yes, the movie is just under 3 hours long. Let's get the elephant out of the room. I really enjoyed this movie. And just calling it a movie like any other movie doesn't do it justice. Now, Matt Reeves has discussed the realism of this movie. Now, when we talk about realism, we're not talking about Christopher Nolan realism. We're not talking about Zack Snyder realism or even Todd Phillips realism from the Joker movie. I want you to shut your eyes and imagine you decide to become a vigilante. You decide to become the Batman. This is how this film sees Robert Pattinson become the Batman. It's like you, I, your mothers or sisters or whoever, no matter how they identify as, deciding to become a vigilante. So you can see yourself being this character. And so that's the first element I want to get straight here. That element is brilliant because it makes it feasible for anyone to be this character. The stuff that he wears looks worn and torn, like he's, you can see his battles on his costume, which I really, really like. So as I say, I love this movie. It's a long movie, but it doesn't feel like a long movie. And let's just say that Paul Dano's Riddler eclipses Heath Ledger's Joker. He does in every way, because this does not feel like a villain. Like Michael Shannon's Zod didn't feel like a villain. He had a justifiable perception in Man of Steel. Now, Heath Ledger's The Joker feels like a villain. He doesn't really seem to have any motivation for what he's doing, but sometimes having no motivation is good. But Paul Dano's The Riddler has motivation. You're going to be asking, like you asked in Man of Steel with Zod, and as you are asked with Joaquin Phoenix the Joker, who's the real villain here? Society, or the character who's breaking these laws or doing these despicable acts? So Paul Dano's The Riddler has a reason for what he's doing, right? He's trying to right several wrongs. He's actually trying to do what the Batman is trying to do. He's trying to clean up this city, but he's doing it by breaking laws. And let's not forget, Batman has always broken a few laws. So that element of it is brilliant. It's a cat and mouse game between Paul Dano's The Riddler and Robert Pattinson's The Batman. Now, Robert Pattinson delivers an Oscar, at least an Oscar-nominated performance. I know a lot of people don't feel comfortable with actors playing comic costume characters when we talk about, Oscars. Now, people laughingly wanted Robert Downey Jr. to be nominated at least for an Oscar for his role in Avengers Endgame and Infinity War. Now, Robert should have definitely won an Oscar for his performance as Charlie Chaplin, but not as Iron Man, aka Tony Stark. For example, Joaquin Phoenix's Oscar was very well deserved, and I think Todd Phillips was robbed not to win Best Director for The Joker, but there you have it. But Robert Pattinson and Paul Dano are the star turns of this movie. And the cat and mouse game they're playing with each other is extraordinary. It's heart-pounding, and you don't really take a side in this film. You're not necessarily on Bruce's or Batman's side. You're not necessarily on Paul Dano's, the Riddler's side, but you understand where both characters are coming from. So I really enjoyed that element of it. Zoe Kravitz as Selena Kyle, aka Catwoman, is absolutely extraordinary. Her chemistry, on-screen chemistry with Robert Pattinson was so good, and you'll fall in love with her from the first moment that you see her. She's independent, she's strong, but she isn't a bitch. And I think one of the things we see with a lot of kind of females in live action storytelling today is we talk about them being strong women, but normally they're very, very bitchy. They hate men. Hating men and being a bitch doesn't make you a strong woman, but having a soul, a heart, and another character where you understand where she's coming from. You know, you understand why she's a thief. You understand that she's come from the street. So she's a really great version of Selina Kyle. My favourite version, pre-Zoe's version of Selina Kyle was, of course, Michelle Pfeiffer in Batman Returns. Zoe eclipses that, and Matt Reeves writing for her absolutely eclipses that. Everyone in this movie comes from a point of view that you're going to understand. Colin Farrell's Oswald Cobblepot, aka the Penguin, which we don't see much of in this movie, but good news if you don't know yet, he's getting his own HBO Max streaming show. How can you not be excited about the future DC live action is heading towards? A lot of people have criticised Warner Brothers. Everyone criticises Warner Brothers. They're like this punching bag. We will love to punch. But let's not forget, it was Warner Brothers who gave Matt this freedom. Talks did break down originally between Geoff Johns and Matt Reeves. Now, Geoff Johns and Warner Brothers were planning on giving Walter Hamada the DC film president gig. And Geoff said, listen, there's a little problem here, Walter. We need to talk to Matt again because he wants freedom. He wants to be in his own world. How can we do this? And, you know, Geoff and Walter discussed this, and they said we just got to give him his own earth that he can play with and form and forge and develop many characters in, and that's the decision that was made, that they would back off in insisting that Ben Affleck would be his Batman, which is what they were pushing for. There was a lot of loyalty from Geoff Johns at the beginning for Ben Affleck. A lot of people don't realise that Geoff Johns was pushing for Ben Affleck to remain as Batman. Ben obviously wasn't happy after what happened with Justice League, and who can blame him? He was meant to do Justice League 2, Justice League 3, write, direct and star in his own Batman movie. Unfortunately, tragically, being the industry that we're a part of, these things don't always go to plan. That doesn't make Warner Brothers a terrible evil. Warner Brothers is the studio that mostly gives creative freedom to their artists and their directors. I know there was issues with Snyder, but if you look at the other studios, no studio gives the director a freedom that Warner Brothers do. It happened with Dennis's Dune. It's happened with Matt Reeves' The Batman, and you can absolutely see this earth too that Matt Reeves is developing. It's an absolutely brand new DC Earth, DC Universe, and you'll see some Easter eggs and stuff in the movie as well. But if you wanted to see a film that feels relatable and that you can touch it and it feels like the world that you live in, this is it. As I say, this is not realism in terms of Zack Snyder or Christopher Nolan. This is realism. I suppose it will be like watching one of the British soap operas, Emmerdale, Coronation Street. You know, those worlds seem like you could live in those worlds, that you could drink in the Woolpack. I know my American viewers and subscribers won't understand what I'm talking about, but if you're British, you'll understand. The British soaps are they've got a lot of realism in it. It's not like the American soaps. It's not about money and power. It's about, you know, real people. And this is what the Batman is. It's a world that you can touch. And that's something that I really appreciated about it. You know, you see the Batmobile in this film, and you've all seen the Batmobile. It doesn't look like Snyder's Batmobile. It doesn't look like the 1960s Batmobile. This is a car. Now, it's a car with a bit of, you know, it's not an ordinary car in terms of what it can do. And Bruce has made sure that this car can travel faster than the average car. But there are touchable reasons how that car can travel faster. And it just looks like a car at the end of the day. And so what you're going to see from this film is, this film isn't what you really expect of it. It actually gives you a lot more than you would expect from this film. It's the trailers and the promotions and the marketing I mean, it's been very, very kind of honest about that. I felt that the marketing for Batman versus Superman Dawn of Justice was dishonest. It tried to look like a popcorn chomping, brawl between Batman and Superman, and that film had a lot more to it than that. And if they were honest within its marketing, I don't think the divisive reaction would have happened on the level that we got it. And so the Batman's marketing has been very honest, because they actually, nowadays directors take control of the marketing in a lot of ways. Matt Reeves took control of the marketing for the Batman. So there's a lot of honesty within that marketing. I'm not here to give you spoilers. I'm not going to tell you who's in it. There were a lot of rumours in earlier test screenings about a drop the mic moment at the end of the movie. And oh boy, is it a drop the mic moment. So I'm going to read off some cast names, because I'm not very good with remembering names. And I'm going to give one great praise right now. I always forget his name. I don't know why, because the man is an acting technical genius, a director. Andy Serkis as Alfred Pennyworth is absolutely extraordinary in this film, and you will need to keep an eye on this character. I have had several theories, and I've kind of spoke about those theories I've had about Andy's Alfred Pennyworth on this very channel and on the DCEU Daily. You'll have to wait and see if those theories are right, but his performance is like no other version of Alfred before. Very, very interesting. Probably a lot more faithful to what we've seen in the comics before, rather than the other versions. We've had elderly versions of Alfred. We've had Michael Caine's version of Alfred in Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. I think Jeremy Irons did a brilliant version of that character as well. But this is a version of Alfred we haven't seen before, and there really is this kind of, there is a problem in the relationship. Not problem that I didn't like it, but they, they pass each other in the hallway. They're very, there's a divide between them. Alfred is always kind of pushing him to make sure he doesn't give the game away, but all Robert's performance is doing really is saying, I'm obsessed, I have to be doing this, I just don't care about the Bruce Wayne name. Right now I need to clean up this city. I need to know what happened to my parents, what's going on here. So that's the kind of thing that you're going to see in this movie. So brilliant. We've spoken about Colin Farrell. Jeffrey Wright as James Gordon, again, a version of Jim Gordon that we really haven't seen before. I like all the versions of Jim Gordon, even the one in the 1960s series. This is very, very different. Of course, Jeffrey Wright is a really, really talented artist. He's a really good actor, and the role has been written especially for him, and you can tell that. So absolutely fantastic. Peter Sarsgaard's in this movie again, an excellent performance. I don't want to talk about Barry Keoghan, because I don't want to come on here and be an a-hole and start telling you this, that and the other. I could easily do that. I could easily get views, clicks, likes, lots of subs. I'm not here for that. Those of you who know me know that I'm, financially well off. I don't need a successful YouTube channel. I do this YouTube channel very amateurly. Right now I'm looking into a very cheap Lenovo tablet. I just wanted to relay to you that I've seen the Batman, and it's a really good film. We've spoken about the realism, how it's unlike what Snyder and Nolan did. This is a world you can touch and you can see yourself in, and I think that's the elements here. If you're a girl out there, you could be Catwoman. The way she's Catwoman, you could do it. She's not got powers, or you could be her. You could be Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne's a millionaire, of course, but you don't have to be being a millionaire helps Bruce do what he's doing. But this is a film that says this could be you. This could have happened to you. You could have seen your parents getting murdered. You could have been driven to this. Don't forget, Gotham City is a city suffering with urban blight, corruption, and this guy has decided to take no more. But let's be clear, as I said on the top of the show, that the Riddler, Paul Dano's the Riddler, is really doing the same things that Batman is doing. His motivations are the same as Bruce Wayne's. They absolutely are. So he's just going about things, I suppose you have to say, in the wrong way. Killing people isn't the right way to clean up a city, but this is a very angry guy, you know, and he's going around things in a very different way. Now let's talk about Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne, the Batman. There are rage issues here, frustration issues, and he is very, very brutal towards the villains at times, as we saw in one of the earlier DC Fandom trailers as well. So I'm not really delivering a spoiler there for you. So there is brutality towards the villains in this movie because he's angry about what's happened to the city that he grew up in. So there is brutality there. But, you know, as we know already from, you know, other people talking about this, they do address the no-kill policy that Batman's always had, and that will be dealt with. And I think that was important. And I think next time they do a Superman movie, they will need to readdress Superman's no-kill policy, because Snyder kind of had Superman kill Zod, but it wasn't really his idea. It was David Goyer's, to be clear. And we know that Snyder had Batman killing a few people as well, or maybe they were just collateral damage, not necessarily like cold-blooded murder, but that was an issue and a problem for a lot of hardcore comic book fans. And I think it's important not to criticise those people for criticising Snyder for allowing his, you know, heroes to kill, because for a lot of those people it's sacrilege. I didn't mind seeing Batman kill people. I didn't mind seeing Superman kill Zod. But I also don't want to continuously go on this road of, you know, evil Superman, dark Superman and things like that. I think it's important to Superman fans, such as myself, that Superman is that symbol of hope, and that Batman is a symbol of hope. He's just a slightly darker character who can be very, very brutal. But, you know, in this film, he just about stops himself from crossing the line. Michael Giacchino's music is a work of art. I've been such a huge admirer of Michael's ever since Lost. I still don't think, pre the Batman, that Michael had done anything better than what he done on Lost, Fringe and Alias. I think that music for a TV show is absolutely fantastic, and he's even done concerts with the music of Lost, just like Murray Gold has done with his beautiful Doctor Who music. But Michael's music in the Batman is, I think, the kind of music we're getting here is so different to what Michael's done before. In the early days, I found Michael a one-trick pony. His music always sounded the same. When he's gone on to features and moved away from television, his music's had more of a variety, and it's very, very different, his music in this film, and I thought it was fantastic. You're going to want to take a listen to that soundtrack. The film, these days, you know, the films look beautiful. Whether they're good films or not, they look beautiful. The stunt work, the action, the costumes are beautiful. And I will say this, actually seeing Robert Pattinson in his Batman costume, and I liked the costume from the first moment I saw it. It's different to anything we've seen before, but again, it looks like a costume that you can make yourself, and I really like that element of it. Again, because this is a touchable world. This is a more touchable comic book adaptation world than we've ever seen before. But you will be lost in this film. Not lost or confused, but lost in this film. This film sucks you in. It makes you have opinions and opinions about what these characters are doing. And the cruel world that Bruce Wayne's been dragged into, it really is a character who can really, at this point, cannot trust anyone. And I include Alfred in that as well. So it kind of, I suppose, if anyone's watched the television series 24 starring Kiefer Sutherland as Special Agent Jack Bauer, it's kind of like that. Who can you trust? Who can't you trust? Can Bruce even trust Alfred? Can he trust Selina? Who can he trust here? And really, in the element of this film, you're kind of wondering who's going to betray him as well. But coming out of this film, I felt emotionally drained. I felt overly satisfied, and I just wanted to see it again. It really is a fabulous movie. This is the second DC live action project of this year, in a year that promises so much. Now, I haven't seen Peacemaker, but I've read the reactions to Peacemaker in detail. This is not a time to talk about Ray Fisher and Joss Whedon, about things that happened 5 years ago. If you're a DC fan, my advice to you is embrace the future. I love Zack Snyder's Man of Steel. I love Zack Snyder's Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice. I love Zack Snyder's Justice League, right? And I hope he gets more. But if he doesn't, the Snyder Cut is a great way for Zack to get the last word, to say, you know what, my film was leaps and bounds better than what Whedon did. Anything would have been better than what Whedon did. But then, as a measured, balanced human being, I have sympathies for Whedon. I can't talk about what happened on the sets of Buffy and Angel and other things he did, but I can say that he took on, you know, something extremely poisonous and difficult. He was told, you have the same release date as Snyder, you need to rewrite this film, put more colour in it, marvelise it. He was under a lot of pressure, and he's got a crew and a bunch of actors who love Zack Snyder, and they hate him for making these changes. But he had to make those changes because he wanted the Batgirl gig, and it never worked out for him, and he lost control of himself, as the people, most of the people working on that film did. A lot of people acted improperly on that set, and I know that Ray Fisher's responded. I may do a little video reacting to that a little bit later on, but I'm not interested anymore, I'll be honest. I'm a DC fan. I love DC. I will defend DC with my very last breath, and I think any franchise that's giving you Peacemaker, the Batman, Black Adam, the Flash movie that's going to change the universe forever, including giving us a brand new Robin as well in the Batgirl movie. You know, as I say, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom as well, Batgirl we just mentioned. You know, it's such a huge year. And seeing this Batman movie gives me faith for the future of DC live action. You can comment down below. You can ask me any questions about this movie. If there's spoiler questions, I'm not going to answer them, because even though you may think you want spoilers for this film, you won't want spoilers for this film. I have tried to explain what this film is, how touchable it is, how different it is, but it's not. This film isn't different for different sake. I think sometimes we crave differences just so it's different, but it's not. They're not normally good movies. This is another, not just a great comic book movie. We spoke about this yesterday, and IGN was speaking about this with the Joker. The Joker isn't just a great comic book movie, it's a great movie. The Batman isn't just a great comic book movie, it's a great movie. And we have this genius, Matt Reeves, this lovely, sweet individual, by the way, who has no arrogance or ego about him, not just crafting a Batman universe, but crafting a DC universe, his own Earth, Earth 2. And for me, there's nothing more exciting than that. So it's a brilliant film. You're going to want to see it. I expect this to have lots of plaudits, make lots of money, and I think this is a touchstone moment for DC live action. Not just with the Batman, not just with what Matt's doing, but what all these other talented creatives are doing moving forward with DC live action, and I couldn't be more excited. This has been the DCEU Daily. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this perfection, and I'll see you again tomorrow with even more DCEU Daily. Until then, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.